Hello there, everyone, and welcome back to Moon Theory. My name is GabPat, and today we will be analyzing the big twist at the end of Moon Knight Episode 4. As a big fan of the show, I couldn't say I didn't see this coming, but how and why it happened was very interesting. So after Mark was shot, he drifts into a void until it transfers to us watching a bit of an old movie, Tomb Busters. It shows us that we are in a mental institute filled with characters we know. Donna, Leela, who is referred to as a nurse in the subtitles, and even Arthur Harrow. Not only do we see familiar characters, but items. We pass these two old ladies drawing pictures. Although seeming to be nothing, they are both drawing birds with heads not too different of that of Khonshu. We go to Mark, who is next to Gus, who I still think stands for Among Us, because something pretty sus is going on. Layla walks up and sees that Mark has won bingo. She claims the victory and says she will share it this time. I don't see it as anything, just a nurse taking advantage of him, since he's sedated. He sees his reflection in a window and falls out of a chair. He's brought to Harrow. Now, before we discuss their conversation, we must discuss the artifacts we see in his office. First of all, the office reminds me of Stephen's flat we see in episode 1 and 2. We see a painting of the Scottish village from episode 1, a plastic walking stick representing the staff, canopic jars, the sandals, the VHS we were talking about earlier, and a statue of the Egyptian god Amun. We'll get to that. There's also a paperweight, which I don't understand the importance of, so if you do, please let me know. Arthur begins talking about the villain of the movie. No tree can ascend to the lights of heaven without descending to the depths of hell. I interpret that as just saying, can't succeed in life without struggle and misery. I don't think that's a hint to anything, but just an interesting thing. He then points out how the plot of the movie is about a lunar god and sees if Mark can make a comparison to his own life. He then says that they live in a psychic world as compared to a physical world, explaining that one thing can actually be many things in the eye of the beholder, like a pen is a pen for humans, but a chew toy for a dog. But this just does not make sense to me. He says that they can only make incorrect inferences, but he chooses a pen, something designed to be a writing utensil, not a chew toy. A physical world is defined as real things, not ideas and beliefs. A pen is real, but a god, which cannot be proven but only believed in, is in a psychic world, as far as we know. Now, Arthur asks for an assessment of Mark's situation, not too unlike the gods asked of him in the previous episode. Mark talks about how this situation reminds him of something, and Arthur questions, reminds you of what? Of your past? Stephen? Mark is shocked that Arthur knows Stephen, but Arthur insists he wants to talk to Mark. Interesting. Now, once again, this is interesting. What of Stephen would he remember? We are shown the show through Stephen's perspective. Now, the scene most similar to this is the scene in episode 2 where Stephen is fired. Now, since Markle was aware during the scene after it in the storage container, it wouldn't be too unreasonable to assume that he would have been aware a bit earlier. Aware, I mean, when you're awake and aware of what the other person is doing. Furthermore, when you are aware, is described as something not too different of how you would experience a dream, where you are not in control, but you are an actor going through a script. That's my own description, not what they say, but that's what a dream is. There's even a real-world phenomenon for taking control of dream, for example, when you finally possess the body, known as a lucid dream. And we even see Mark blacking out, which could be when he is in this real world. All seems normal until he leaves the office, and that's when things get weird. But what if he leaves the real world when this native medicine seemed to wear off? When he hits the floor, what if he's knocked unconscious, put into a dream? So, what if when he begins to gain control of his body, that is the start of another dream, a new thing? Because death and dreams often signal psychological rebirth or entering of a new chapter, and since he's died in the previous dream, rebirth into a new dream or a new story. But all these ideas are based on that this is the real world, but in my opinion, it is not. The main reason is we have 2 more episodes and a Halloween special introducing the Midnight Suns, which has Blade and a bunch of other famous characters, so imagine how furious fans would be if it was all just in Mark's head. Although they could just do some multiverse excuse, I don't buy it. I think this is the gods trying to reprogram him and fiddle with his mind. I know this is a big accusation of people who claim to stay neutral, but many things I brought up previously support this. The gods asked if Mark needed help mentally, and he said yes. The statue of Amun, who is a god of whatever is needed by the people, could help Mark with whatever is needed. The blackouts could be when another identity is forced in, and are normally for short amounts of possession compared to what we have seen when it can be longer. In the first episode, when Steven slept, he started himself, and then he was in this village. He was not having someone forced in on him, but he was forcing in on someone else, which is why he keeps blacking out, because he's being kicked out. And in episode 3, and that's just why Steven was there, because he shouldn't have remembered that, but somehow he got forced in. Now, this office is a place for the gods to clear you of power. Now, before we go on that, there's one more evidence after all this, and that is merely that they said they're in a psychic world, not a physical one. So, again, pretty sus. And what do I mean when I say it's where gods clear you of power? I think that when a god has an avatar, they give you a bit of their power. For example, the scales of Ammit the staff, the suit. I'm sure there's powers for all the avatars, but when you compare Ammit to Khonshu, they do not seem the same. But I just think this is because Ammit is not supposed to have an avatar, so she can't give as much power. But I don't think the armor is the only gift from Khonshu. I believe there is another gift, giving Mark another identity. This identity could be one that works as basically Khonshu's puppet. We see that both personalities don't completely work for Khonshu. They can disagree or even just straight up ignore his orders. So this third one would be completely loyal. Although Khonshu's thing is punishing sinners, we don't see much of punishment, except in episode 1 and 3, where there are the blackouts. In episode 1, I believe the whole Scarab mission was this third personality, who I will label Joe. Hi, nice to meet you, Joe. I believe when Khonshu really needs something done, Joe takes over, whether it's forced in or just it's surrendered to him. He was in charge of the whole Scottish mission, and he was going to question the gang in Egypt before Mark took over once more. And in the case of episode 3, both Mark and Steven say it was not them who brutally punished the street gang. So, what if it was Joe? This even explains why Arthur admits to enjoying punishing the sinners, something you think that Ammit would not think of as okay, because that seems pretty messed up and not nice, and she wants to make people nice. But what if this was Joe he was referring to, because that was a part of him? Now it would make sense, because Joe liked punishing, and now, if we're going by the theory, it left because it's part of Khonshu's power, which was removed. It also explains what Arthur meant in the Mind Place when he says he understood, because he went through the same process of Mark and Steven, because he had this other personality and all these powers that he needed to get rid of, and why there was another sarcophagus. Besides Steven's, there was another one, which looked a bit more evil, and what if that was Joe? And my last reason is the Hippo Lady. Now, she is Taweret, the goddess of fertility and rejuvenation. Rejuvenation. Do I really need to say any more? That's what they're doing. So I think what this place will do is test Mark and Steven, and they'll try to send one of them back, the more worthy one, into the world to live the rest of their lives normally, as if Khonshu never bothered them. But I do believe that their personalities will be merged in the end to stop Arthur, and they will settle down with Layla until the inevitable Halloween special. Or it's this Halloween special and then settle down. You never know. But they've got to settle down with Layla, I think. That's a big problem in the show. Her and Mark, and then it's a love triangle. So if they're in one body, it won't be as weird, and it will just be the best of both. But which accent will they use? And also, they'll somehow get the suit back before the finale so they can beat up Arthur and save the world. Woohoo! But hey, that's just a theory. A moon theory. And